Here we go. Okay, great. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is June Allen from juneallen.net, and I teach sisters how to heal from self-hate through racial sobriety and 12-step recovery. So today's topic is a question that I received from one of the people in my community, and she was struggling, saying that she finds it really hard to love herself because she's got abandonment issues. So yeah, it was just really important for me I wanted to answer the question for her and also share some tools and some strategies that she can use to actually start the process around that, and to talk a bit more about what that actually means, the impact of abandonment and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I thought it would be really good to come on and just share some stuff with you all. So if you know anyone that struggles with self-love, that that's got abandonment issues, then tag them, share it with them, yeah, just so they might be able to get some really good value out of this thing. So if you're watching this on the replay as well, hello, if you're watching on the replay after this is finished, and you can just put hashtag in the comments replay love, just so that I know that you're there and I can actually respond to any questions. If any of you've got any questions watching this, just pop them in the comments, and every now and then I will double check the comments just to make sure I'm not missing anything. So just to give you a little bit of background about my story, I went into 12-step recovery when let me see, what year was it? 2009 I went in, from addiction to people. I kept finding myself in dysfunctional relationships. So the last relationship I had that was really dysfunctional, I was like, you know what, I need to get some help. I need to get some help. I didn't understand why relationships were so painful. So I went into recovery and I went through, an amazing recovery process. But what I found was, underneath all of that stuff that I was doing in recovery, because, recovery was very white middle class. And, I realized that what was underneath a lot of that was the racial trauma, racial pain, stuff that was passed down from my family. And once I understood that, I started looking at my recovery in a completely different way. And then as I started getting better and started feeling more confident and was able to love myself a lot more, I was like, oh my God, I have to share this with other people. So that's basically how, my journey kind of got me started on this stuff. And then I've now I have to share it with you all. I have to share it with other people, because it's not, it would be, it's just not on for me to keep this to myself. So, I show up to share my experience, strength and hope. Whether you're in recovery or not, you don't have to be in recovery to be able to do this work. There are other ways to do it, but that was the path that I chose. And I do share about my recovery sometimes, but not always. It's not always about being in recovery. So that's a little bit about my backstory. So just going to go through a little bit of housekeeping as well. So this session is actually inspired by a Black self-love kit. Just recently, I have seen so many people talking about this topic, the frustration around it, people not really knowing that they need to do it, but not really understanding how to do it. And so it's really hard for people. It's really hard for people to know what to do, especially when it comes to the Black self-care. People talk about self-care in kind of like a general context, what they need to be doing and going to have a massage. People understand all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to Black self-care, I think people don't really understand that context as much, or how important it is. So one of the reasons that I really wanted to do this Black self-love kit is because I talk not only just about the stuff that people understand, but also I talk about it from a cultural perspective, the importance of doing the things that are going to help build confidence and self-esteem around your cultural identity. So if you go to blackselflove.juneallen.net, I'll put a link in the comments, or somebody could post it in the comments, that'd be great. blackselflove.juneallen.net. You can pick up your Black Self-Love kit there. It's absolutely free. And in there, there's a free 7-day course, 7 days of revolutionary Black self-love. I talk about, there's affirmations in there. There's, how to find a, great Black therapist. There's about 6 or 7 different different things in there for you to really get an overview of what Black self-love is, you know, how it impacts you personally, and to begin to start to build on you know, what you've learned, so that you can start your journey. So yeah, if you go to blackselflove.juneallen.net, you can pick it up there. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is that Black History Month UK is just around the corner. And so I've got a really amazing workshop that I'm doing with a wonderful sister friend of mine, Faith Agugu. We're going to be doing this workshop together on wounded daughters, healing the mother wound. So if you have a difficult or challenging relationship with your mum, hi, thanks for joining. If you've got a difficult relationship with your mum and you want to, you know, start to understand that relationship and begin to, you know, set some boundaries and really take back, you know, your own sense of self, then this live workshop is going to be really great. So, you know, if you go to heal.juneallen.net, you'll find a link there as well that will take you straight to number one, the Black History Month page, the live workshop for wounded daughters. And the other thing that I wanted to say about Black History Month is, because of all of this stuff that I'm doing around self-love, one of the things that I know is missing, and so many more people, you know, that say that they want this, is to actually have a safe space to be able to start to process this stuff. And I want to give you guys the opportunity to be able to start to do that, because I think we need to have these safe Black spaces to be able to do it. You know, I understand why people might not necessarily want to go in recovery and kind of sit in rooms with white people to be talking about their stuff. You know, I understand that. And I understand, you know, going to a therapy, you know, people just want somewhere to start. And, you know, the whole point of self-love is to be able to find a safe place for you to be able to start doing this work. And I want to be able to launch a workshop, an ongoing thing, monthly, fortnightly, depending on how busy it gets, for people to be able to come to that space and to begin to be able to get honest, to identify with other people, to understand racism, white supremacy, not just from an external perspective, but understanding the self-hate, understand how we internalize it. And we would use the, you know, the knowledge from our ancestors. We'll look at Dr. Wilson's work, we'll look at Amos Wilson's work, you know, we'll read some books, but we're not just going to read, we're going to do the work. We're going to do the work. So if anybody's watching and you really, you know, would love the opportunity to be able to start really doing the work, then, you know, email me, inbox info@yardofgreatness.com. That's info@yardofgreatness.com. Or you can just DM me on Facebook or Instagram, whichever platform you're on, and let me know that you're interested. Or even if you sign up for the Black Self-Love Kit, you'll already be on my mailing list and you'll get the information anyway. But if you've got thoughts, or you know, you'd like to attend this sort of thing, and you've got some ideas that, you know, just let me know what you want. Let me know what you want to do in the workshop. I've got some ideas that I'm thrashing out, but at the end of the day, I want to create this space for you all to be able to start to do this healing process, to really start to do the work. So yeah, so message me and let me know, you know, what you want me to do in the workshop. So that's the housekeeping out of the way. So we are now about to get into the content. So if you've got pens, papers, grab your notebooks, your journals, whatever you're going to use to write down, because I'm going to be giving away some information this evening that you know, that you're going to want to take notes about how to take care of yourself. So first, let's have a look at abandonment. What does abandonment actually mean? I mean, it's easy to assume that abandonment always means that the person is physically not there, physically not available. But there is also such thing as emotional abandonment, where the person is there physically, but they're disconnected emotionally. And that was my story. That was my story. So I think it's really important to understand that, you know, abandonment doesn't necessarily mean that the person's not there. It's just, in a way, it can be, I'm not going to say it's more painful, but it is still painful. It's still painful if the person is there, but they're emotionally disengaged, you know. So, you know, if you identify with that, you know, drop a 1 in the comments if you identify with either one of those, whether, you know, one parent was kind of, you know, you didn't feel that the parent was there physically, or just, you know, you have one parent that wasn't there at all. Just drop a 1 in the comments, you know, if you identify with that. Anyone identify with that? my parents were both, my parents are still together, they're still married, but emotionally, I felt they were disconnected, so that was part of my story, the whole abandonment conversation, and it was hard. It was really hard. Yeah, you relate. Yeah, I can see in the comments somebody's relating. Yeah, it is really, really hard. So it is important to understand that definition, and what happens as a result of abandonment, be it physically or emotionally, is that, right, okay, so Candice, you identify as well. Yeah, a lot of us identify with that. A lot of us identify with that, because if you think about the attachment theory is something that I learned, at college when I did my first year training as a psychotherapist. The attachment theory, from a human perspective, we get our self-esteem, we learn who we are primarily through our interactions with the mother. So if we are disconnected or detached by our mothers, or our fathers, when we're really young as babies, the baby breastfeeds, and the baby is looking to the mother to basically define who the baby is. That's what the attachment theory is about. And we gain a sense of self by interacting with the mother and how the mother responds to us. If the mother is happy, caring, nurturing, feeding us when we're hungry, cuddling us when we're upset, and all of that kind of stuff, that's how we learn that we have a sense of worth. That's how we learn that stuff. If that stuff is disconnected for any reason, then what happens is that child is going to internalize those feelings and think that it's because they're at fault. They're going to feel shame. They're going to feel a lot of shame. They're going to feel like, oh, well, if my mum doesn't love me, if my parents don't love me, then I'm unlovable. I'm unlovable. And if we think about this in a cultural context, just to give you more of an overview of this situation, if you think about during slavery times and the whole attachment process during slavery, that was intentionally broken in order to maintain control. So I think it was Frederick Douglass that wrote about this in his book about his experience in slavery, and he talks a lot about that. He talks a lot about the fact that babies were often separated from their mothers within the first year of life, and it was an intentional thing that the slave masters did so that there would be no attachment to the mother. So then what happens is you have the African people that were raised in those times, during slavery times, they had no sense of self, because obviously they were disconnected from the parent. They weren't allowed to form any healthy relationships during slavery time. We weren't allowed to get married. We weren't allowed to do. The children could be sold off at any time. So we had no opportunity to form any healthy attachment. So then what happens as a result of that is that if the child has no sense of self, because there's been no attachment, the only thing they have to attach to is the slave master. So what happens is the child ends up absorbing whiteness as the kind of aspiration, because they've got no real attachment. They've got no real attachment to their mother. Is that making sense? Am I making sense to people? Just drop a one or an emoji or something in the comments if you hear what I'm saying, because I'll break it down a bit more if you don't understand what I'm saying. But it's important for me to kind of explain this in a way that you're going to get this. So the babies were taken to break the spirit of the child and to create that detachment. The child then absorbs this, or internalizes the detachment as there is something wrong with them. So then essentially what happens is you have a lot of people that are shame-based. Now let's not forget that this went on for hundreds of years, 250 years slavery, whatever. And so this detachment process gets passed down through the generations, and it gets more and more difficult for us to learn how to attach to our children, to learn how to attach to each other. It becomes really difficult to do that, because obviously we've had loads of generations where during slavery where we weren't allowed to attach to each other. So attachment then becomes something that's foreign to us. It then becomes painful. it becomes hard for us to love ourselves, because then what happens is we do to ourselves what was done to us, because we don't know how to nurture ourselves. We don't know what self-love feels like, because our parent couldn't love, I wasn't allowed to during slavery. We then do that to ourselves. So we don't know how to love ourselves, or loving ourselves feels painful. It feels painful almost, because we're not used to it. The whole thing around intimacy and loving ourselves now becomes something that feels foreign to us. It feels foreign to us, because that's what we've learned over the generations. And unless you go through a compassionate, loving, gentle healing process to understand and undo that stuff, you're just going to pass that stuff on. You're going to pass that stuff on to the next generation. I've worked with quite a few women, that tell me that, their parents are just really cold, that there's that detachment there. They can't always articulate it, but they just say that they feel disconnected from their parents. And there's something that I really identify. I really identify with that, and I just couldn't articulate it at the time. But it's only now that I've kind of got the language for it. I understand there was an abandonment issue there. There was an emotional abandonment issue there, and that's all related to trauma as well. When you're traumatized, it's very hard to attach to somebody, to other people, when there's trauma. So then, a lot of people are sort of always asking the questions around, why is it that relationships feel so hard? Why can't Black people get on in relationships? It's because a lot of us, especially if we are, we come from the Caribbean and stuff like that, and we're dealing with a lot of this stuff, we've got these issues, these abandonment issues that come from, our immediate family, that actually is ancestral. It's been passed down through the family. It's not been healed. It's not been healed. So, and also you've got to put on top of that as well, that, the fact that, in our culture and stuff like that, a lot of our families used to hit us and stuff like that. That as well in of itself, on top of the detachment, it also feeds our inability to love ourselves, because we think we deserve it. We think that we deserve it because it's, every Black person, a lot of Black people do it, and it's kind of normal, and a lot of us laugh about it and stuff like that. We think that it's just we just accept it as part of our culture. But the truth is, it has massive impact on our ability not only to love ourselves, but to love each other. That is facts. That is facts, and there are so many people that, I see this all the time when this topic comes up around, parenting and all that kind of stuff, and kids getting hit, where people are justifying it, and, well, I turned out fine and all of this kind of stuff, but the thing is, you can't, the statistics speak for itself. I can't even know to speak. The statistics speak for itself. The statistics speak for itself, and it is damaging. I've spoken about Dr. Stacey Patton's work over and over again in these broadcasts. If there's anybody on here that's watching, or if you're watching live or on the replay, and you're kind of, you think that hitting children and all of that kind of stuff is okay, I urge you to kind of look at her work. She's got an amazing book called Spare the Kids. And she talks about the historical, she goes in a lot deeper, some of the stuff that I was saying to you before about the abandonment, not the abandonment stuff, but how, the way that we treat our children is all kind of left over from slavery and all the rest of it. We've basically taken on what the slave masters did to us, and we do that to our children as a way of kind of discharging our own anger, our own trauma. And this is all part and parcel of the same abandonment conversation. I know these are hard things that I'm saying, so, just stick with me on this, because I'm going to have some, we're going to be going into the healing steps in a little while. It's hard for a lot of us to hear this stuff, because nobody wants to accept that, that our parents did this, and obviously their parents did it to them, and so on and so on. But there has to come a point where we have to draw the line in this stuff, and in order for us to be able to heal and get well, there's a process that we need to go through in order to make some sense of all of this stuff that's happened to us within our families. And you know, we are responsible for changing the narrative ourselves. We can't change other people, but we can change the narrative of our lives. And I'm living proof of that. I'm living proof of that, that I've been able to overcome a lot of the abandonment stuff. And, you know, make no mistake, that abandonment stuff is going to show up in your relationships. It's going to show up in your business. You know, it's gonna, if you run a business and you've got abandonment issues, it's going to be very hard for you to connect with people in business. Business is about being visible. It's about being visible. It's about showing up. It's about relationship. And if you struggle with relationship, if you struggle with the relationship around your parents, and you still got a lot of wounds around this abandonment stuff, it's going to get triggered. It's going to get triggered when you do your work. And I'm speaking from experience. The only reason why I'm able to sit on here and talk to you about this now is because I understand what my triggers are. I understand that my abandonment issues are are kind of being played out. I can see how they're kind of bleeding into, you know, when I'm trying to show up and serve my community. But the difference between, you know, it doesn't run me. It doesn't run me. It doesn't impact me enough for me not to show up. And the only reason I've been able to do that is because, you know, I've worked my 12-step recovery program, and I've got a support system. I've got a support system. So let's talk about the 5 steps. Now we'll talk about the 5 steps to healing. Sorry, Instagram Live. My phone is I don't know how much time I've got left on my battery. All right, let me just plug that in so I don't lose you. Okay, so hopefully that will be all right. Okay, so yeah, let's talk about the five healing steps. Yeah, is everyone with me? Anyone got any questions or anything before I move on to the 5 healing steps? Just drop an emoji in the comments, just so I know that you're with me, or give me some hearts or something, just so I know that you're still with me and you're understanding what I'm saying. Yeah, and I will get going on the 5 healing steps to self-love. So the first one is to thank you for the hearts. I really appreciate that. The first step towards healing is you've just got to be honest about the fact that you just cannot control you're powerless over other people. You cannot control how other people behave. You can only control your response to it. You know, how many of you who have been stuck in a relationship, either with family members or in a love relationship, where you're just constantly trying to change the other person? You think if you change, or you complain enough, or you tell them enough, that you think the other person, sorry about that, you think the other person is going to change their behavior, you know? And that is a very, I understand that. I did that for years. Especially in my last big relationship before I went into recovery, because I didn't want to take ownership of my own hurt. I was just so focused on trying to make everybody else change around me, because I was afraid of the work that needed to be done to change myself. But then what happens is that as a result of that, you just end up suffering. You just end up suffering because you handing your power over to somebody else. You're handing your power over to other people, and you've got no control over other people. I think it's Alice Walker that says, you know, the most powerful way that people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any, because we hand it over to other people. And this is one of the things that happens when we do have abandonment issues, because in a way we kind of get stuck in that childlike place. Because what happens if you have a healthy relationship with a parent, yeah, you've got a sense of self-worth, so you're able to ask for your needs to get met because your parent met your needs. That's how it works, consciously and unconsciously. When your parents meet your needs, you feel okay asking for your needs to get met as an adult. If your parents don't meet your needs, your emotional needs, your physical needs, your spiritual needs, if they don't take care of you, then there's almost a part of you that gets stuck in that childlike place, and you end up kind of looking to other adults, even though you're kind of like a child in an adult's body. In recovery, we call that adult child syndrome. You're looking to other adults to kind of meet the need of your parent that wasn't able to love you. So that's sometimes why relationships can get quite rocky for us, because so many of us are trapped in that wounded child, and we're unconsciously looking for mummy and daddy. We're looking for mummy and daddy to love us because we can't love ourselves, you know? But that's why it's important for us to, the first thing is to accept that we can't change other people. We have no control over how other people behave. We can only take care of ourselves. And that doesn't mean that we go off and we do, we just kind of go into isolation. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is ultimately you can only control your response to other people, and you have to focus on your own healing, because as you heal, you are going to attract people that are going to be able to meet your needs, because you're going to get better at asking for them. Does that make sense? So number two, drop a two in the comments if you're ready for number two. Okay, so number two is that you need support. If you've had really difficult relationship with your parents, for whatever reason, doing the work around your parents is, I'll be honest with you, it's no joke. It's no joke, because we're talking about primal stuff. As human beings, we are supposed to be part of a group. We are supposed to be part of a unit. So if the family has been, or the parents have abandoned you in some way, or they've been abusive in any way, or something, like there's been some sort of emotional abandonment or physical, or whatever it is, coming to terms with that stuff. There's no way I could have done that on my own. There's absolutely no way I could have faced that pain on my own, because it is painful. It is painful. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But what's amazing is that once you actually find a safe space to be able to get honest about that stuff, and to be able to let other people help you, I was lucky enough to be able to find people in different places that almost became pseudo parents, and helped to nurture me, showed me how to take care of myself. I'm working with a lady at the moment. She's such a sweet woman, but she doesn't know how to take care of herself. She doesn't know what it looks like. She knows she needs to do it, but she doesn't know how to take care of herself. So she wants me to help her learn how to take care of herself, because she was raised in a very difficult household, suffered abuse and all the rest of it. And she needs, and she keeps saying to me, I can tell that you care. I can tell that it's almost like she's not used to having a support network with somebody that cares about her. And there's so many of us as Black people that feel like that, because, the trust was broken in a lot of our homes growing up. So we isolate ourselves. We don't know what it feels like to be in a unit of people that actually cares about us. So we don't know how to ask for support. We don't want to ask, because it feels painful. It's painful to ask for help, because obviously it triggers. I know for me, it was really painful for me to ask for help initially, because it just triggered a lot of the mistrust and the pain that I felt around my own family. So I didn't want to ask for help. Because it triggered all of that stuff. And I just thought, I'm just going to get abandoned again. I'm going to get abused again. I'm going to get, no one's going to really want to help me. All of this stuff, it was really hard. It was really, really hard. But over time, the more I learned to trust other people, and I took my time. It's about taking your time to find people that are going to help you learn how to take care of yourself. If you're looking for somebody to take care of you in that respect, be it a therapist or, a mentor or support group, take your time. Take your time to look for somebody that is going to meet your needs, and that is going to be patient, and that is going to be gentle, and that understands this stuff from a cultural perspective. That's so important. That's so important. I mean, so many people that want to do this work, but they're not getting the cultural angle of it. They don't understand the cultural context. That's one of the reasons why I do what I do, because the cultural context is so important. You're going to be able to understand why your parents behave that way, why your great grandmother behaved that way, why so many people in the community behave a certain way, because there's so many of us in the community that are not healed. They still get triggered consciously and unconsciously by each other. And it's only when you really start to do the work and you really start to dig in and start getting really intimate with what's happening to you personally, that's when the healing really starts to take place. And that's when you really start to feel the self-love, the black self-love, when you really start to do the work. But first you got to be willing to get honest. You know, if you want some support around looking for, you know, a black therapist, a really great black therapist, there is an audio training of that in the Black Self-Love Kit. So go to blackselflove.juneallen.net and you can download it's a free kit, and yeah, it's in there, but I break it down what you need to do to find a great black therapist. If you're interested in working with me and you want to talk to me about this stuff, you can schedule a call with me at callme.juneallen.net. So let's go to the number three. Number three, the next step, you've got to be able to tell the truth. You've got to be willing to tell the truth about this stuff. There are so many of us, and this is part of the how am I going to articulate this? This is one of the fallouts of living under the system of racism, white supremacy. Black people are taught to lie. We're taught to lie about who we are, because, and that's a trauma response. It's a trauma response. There's like a fear of, well, I can't be too, sorry about that. I can't show up as myself. I can't show up with my greatness. I can't show up as a beautiful, you know, shining black woman. I'm not allowed to do that because it might upset white people. Or it might upset the people it might trigger the people in my family that already feel shame about themselves. But if they see you shining and doing well, they might start attacking you and go, who do you think you are? You think you're white, you think you're this and that. All of that stuff is just projection about how they feel about themselves. And so they have to keep you small in order for them to feel comfortable with what they're doing. So it's important for you to be able to find some safe spaces to be able to tell the truth, because we've been taught to lie. That's a survival thing. And so to come out of that denial and to begin to tell the truth means that you have to have a safe space in order to do that. There was a book that I was reading recently. I can't remember the name of it now. Anyway, the book was talking about, the guy that wrote the book was talking about how if the brain, if you don't have a safe space to be able to share the truth, your brain will keep all that stuff shut down. Your brain is going to, and that makes complete sense. Your brain is going to keep a lot of that stuff shut down until you have the safe, you feel safe. And when I'm talking about feeling safe, I'm talking about when you're in an environment that feels trustworthy. Yeah. So that means maybe going into a therapist environment, or working with a mentor or whatever, where you know you're not going to be shamed or somebody will judge you. These are really, really important for the healing process. And if that space, you know, that you're going into doesn't feel safe, you're not going to be able to access the stuff, the truth that needs to come out. That stuff won't come out because your brain is going to understand that I can't talk to these folks because it's not safe. This is why so many families get caught in this kind of toxic denial around all the dysfunction in the family, because they're trying to keep their pain under wraps. They're trying to keep it suppressed because they don't yet have a safe space. And this is one of the reasons why there was a point in my recovery where I had to take some time out from my family. I had to separate myself from my family because I was coming into this place where a lot of stuff was coming out. A lot of truth was coming out. A lot of stuff was being revealed to me. And, you know, obviously, you know, my first instinct is, you know, part of me wanted to go and talk to them, save them, explain to them what's going on and all the rest of it. But this wasn't fair on them because they had not yet got to that place. They didn't have the listening for it. They weren't open for it because they weren't ready to do their healing process. And it's not fair of me to put that on them. But at the same time, it was like I had to make a choice between, okay, well, if I stay in the family dynamic the way that I was before, I'm going to have to lie about who I am. I'm going to have to lie about my pain. I'm going to have to lie about my dysfunction. I'm going to have to abandon myself. And that's not self-love. The more you love yourself, you have to sometimes got to make difficult decisions. It doesn't mean I don't love my family. It just means that I can't spend time with them the way that I used to. But I also have to respect that, again, this is going back to number one, I can't control what they do or say. I can't control their process. It's not my responsibility to save them. It's my responsibility to myself, both as a Black woman and as a mother, to break the pathology in my space so that I don't have to pass that on to my child. I can love my family, I can be compassionate to them, but I can't rescue them. I can't rescue them. I understand now that part of self, an important part of me loving myself, is being able to tell the truth about what's going on for me. And that doesn't mean you're just going out and just opening your mouth and whatever. It's about being discerning as well about the truth. Being discerning about the truth and actually finding the appropriate spaces to share that truth so that you can heal. If you're not willing to share your truth, you're going to struggle to heal. If you're not willing to share your truth, you're gonna struggle to heal. I went to a women's event a few months ago, and it was a great event. But one of the recurring themes that just kept coming up over and over again is this whole thing around, in our community about we're not allowed to chat our business. There's such a stigma about mental health, and people felt ashamed about, even admitting that they feel sad and they're unhappy and that they don't really know what to do about it. So there's a lot of Black people out there suffering. There's a lot of Black people out there suffering in silence, and you don't have to. You don't have to. You've just got to find, number one, you just got to be willing to stop worrying about what other people think about your wellness. Your wellness has got nothing to do with anybody else. Your wellness has got nothing else to do with anybody else. Your wellness is about you. But I think the trouble that a lot of us have with the wellness is, if we've already got abandonment issues and we're getting well, there's that fear of, well, if I get well, what are my family going to say? Am I going to get abandoned by my family? If I don't set boundaries around them, are they going to leave me? Because I'm no longer the person that I used to be. But then what's the consequence of that? All of us end up suffering and there's no progress. We just end up passing the same pathologies down the generation because that stuff is not going to change unless you do the work. My business coach says nothing works but the work. Nothing works but the work. And this comes to number 4. You got to show up. You have got to show up at the end of the day. I see a lot of people reading a lot of books. You can read the books, but what are you doing with the stuff that's in the books? Are you actually executing what's in the books? Or are you just reading the books, hoping the book is somehow going to magically make your life amazing just from reading the books? Self-knowledge is one thing, but true self-knowledge is actually doing the internal work. That means getting honest about what's going on for you. That means processing what's going on for you. That means being willing to feel your feelings and feel the rage, feel the pain, feel the anger. All of that stuff that you've been holding on to over the years, that stuff has got to go if you want to heal. Otherwise, it's going to bleed into your relationships. You can't love yourself while you're holding on to that stuff. That's not self-love, that's self-hate. When you're holding on to that stuff, it's self-hate. It's not self-love. And we've been taught that. We've been taught that, but we've got to be willing to say, you know what? I am willing to go to any lengths to get well. And that was my story. I was in so much pain, okay, around being a mum when I got pregnant and stuff, when I had my daughter. I was in so much pain around being a mum. I was just like, do you know what? If I have to go and sit in a room with white people that I don't know to talk about this stuff so that I can have a chance to undo the stuff that happened in the slave plantations in Jamaica, then I'm going to do it. That was my commitment. That was my commitment to it. And this is why I'm on here now talking to you all about it. Because what I've done is I've taken what I've learned in those recovery rooms. I've taken what I've learned in therapy. I've taken what I've learned, what I've read in books. And what I'm doing now is I'm trying to build a movement about taking action on the internal stuff. No more reading books and not doing anything with the knowledge. What's the point of having the knowledge if you ain't going to do anything with it? I understand that it's scary doing this, scary doing the internal work if you're not used to it. But the benefits are just like, I cannot explain how different it is, how amazing it is. Hi on Instagram. Hi, Joe. I cannot tell you how amazing it is to do this work and just feel so much relief and to feel love for yourself. Honestly, like, sometimes I just like, it's hard to articulate. It's hard to articulate what self-love feels like. But sometimes I wake up and I just feel like Wonder Woman. I feel like no one can touch me. I feel like no one can touch me because I know that my higher power's behind this. And this is how you really fight white supremacy. Not by, I mean, obviously there are people that are going to go out there with placards and do, that's how they choose to do it. But I'm not begging white people for anything. For me, true empowerment is doing the work that my ancestors could not do. They didn't have the tools to do it. They didn't have the strength to do it. They didn't have the means to do it. They didn't have the money to do it. I am in a position now to be able to break the pathology and do the work as a mother to make sure that my daughter doesn't go through the same stuff that I did. And that's why I share so passionately and so honestly about my own journey on these lives. Because I want you all to have the same experience. I want to empower you. I want to empower you and to understand that there is a different way. There is a different way. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to suffer. And if you really want to, this is about legacy. It's about legacy at the end of the day. Even if you haven't got children, what are you passing on to your community? If you haven't got children, what are you passing on to your community? Because when you heal your community. It's not the other way around. Stop going out looking for leaders and other people in your community to save you, when you save you by starting with yourself. We save our communities by doing the internal work ourselves. That's how it works. Because when you do the internal work, it trickles out. It trickles out by default. But a lot of us, don't know how to do the internal work. We don't understand that there is another way. But you just got to keep looking for it, and don't stop until you find it. If it's not me, find someone else. But don't stop looking for it. Don't stop looking for it. Don't stop asking for it. Don't stop reading to find it. You've got to keep looking for it and just be hopeful. It's out there. If it's not me, find somebody else. But just keep looking. Keep looking for it. Don't allow your pain to keep you trapped. Sometimes, for me, the pain got so intense that I had to do something about it. Sometimes people are not in pain. They need to be in more pain in order to start doing the work. Unfortunately, that's how it works, especially in recovery. Sometimes we're not in enough pain. We're not feeling enough pain in order to make the changes. So we just become passive. We just become passive. But nothing's going to change when you're passive. You've got to be intentional about doing this work. So number 4, you've got to show up. You've got to show up, and you just got to be consistent. You got to be consistent and you got to show up. You know, and when I say showing up, it doesn't mean that you got to, you know, you ain't got to run around like a Black Panther, and you ain't got to do all of that. You ain't got to do all of that, and you ain't got to do that. You ain't got to do what I'm doing. You just got to, and this comes to number 5. You start by being compassionate to yourself. Start by being kind to yourself. That's what true Black self-love is. It's self-parenting. It's self-parenting. It's making sure that you're getting enough sleep. It's the basic things. Making sure that you're getting enough sleep. Making sure that you're eating healthy. Asking for help when you need it. Giving yourself permission to experience beauty. You know, from a cultural perspective, you know, what we in recovery we call them top lines. Top lines are expensive, not expensive, are important. Cultural top lines are important to build self-esteem around your identity. And when I say cultural top lines, I'm talking about things like, you know, eating the food from your culture. As long as it's healthy, eating the food from your culture. There's a lot of food from Jamaica. My parents are from Jamaica. There's a lot of stuff from Jamaica that I choose not to eat now for health reasons. But I've adapted. I'm vegan now, but I adapt the vegan, the concept around the dish and make it into a vegan meal. And that for me, like, I feel connected to who I am as a Black woman when I do that, and I do it consciously. I've just recently found an amazing Black business in London that actually deliver hard food. So I get a little box and I get my little piece of yam and I get my little bit of plantain, you know, and a bit of sweet potato and some sea moss. I love my sea moss. You know, these are all cultural top lines. These are cultural forms of self-care. And people forget that. They think self-care is just about going to get a massage and all of that. And it's for Black people, we have to do the cultural self-care as well. The cultural self-care is more important in a lot of ways because we're still living under the system of racism. We're still living under the system of racism. So we have to do the cultural top lines. I talk about that a lot more in the Black self-love kit. You know, there's a lot of things in there that we need to be consistent with doing these things. Every single day we need to be doing these top lines. We have to be doing self-care, self-love. Every single day. Every single day we're getting oppressed. Every single day. I don't know how many times I've seen on my social media timeline recently. Black people getting murdered, police getting away with it, Black people getting abused. Not just externally, but I see it within, you know, I see it within families, within our Black families. You know? And at the end of the day, we have to find a way to start building the self-love within ourselves, because once we start doing that within ourselves, that's when things are really going to start to change. Things aren't going to change by looking externally at what other people do. We're trying to make other people change. We're trying to make other people listen, be it white people or our families. It starts with us. How are you treating yourself? Stop thinking about how other people are treating you and draw the conversation back to how are you treating yourself. Because what's probably happening is you're treating yourself the way that other people treat you. When you start treating yourself with self-love, then the people around you are going to respond to you differently also, because your energy is different. Your energy is different. And there's something that happens, like energetically, I don't know, there's sort of something happens where you sort of command a lot more respect. It's hard to articulate, but once you it's self-respect. That's what it is. When you start having self-love, you start to respect yourself a lot more. That gets projected out into the universe, and so other people treat you differently also, because you're having that respect for yourself. You know, so Black self-love is really, it's about compassion. It's about compassion and being kind. This is probably one of the most important things that we need, because a lot of us as Black people living under the system of racism, we don't understand compassion. We don't know what it looks like. We're so used to being treated harshly. We talk harshly to ourselves. The world tells us that we're crap, that we're no good, that we're rubbish, that we're only useful when we're serving white supremacy. Sometimes our families do that to us because that's what's been projected onto our families. We internalize that, and then we do that to our family members. We do it to our children. So we don't know how to be kind and compassionate to each other or ourselves. That's where you have to start. I always tell people, if you really want freedom from racism and self-hate, you start with these two things: a large mirror and an ocean of self-compassion. A large mirror and an ocean of self-compassion. So you can begin to start the journey by taking care of yourself. That's where it starts. You know, that is where it starts. So, wow, let me just scroll down and just see if there's any questions or anything in here. Talking about the attachment theory. If anybody else has got any questions, drop them in the comments now. So I'm just going to have a look. I've tried constantly to change myself, hoping the other person would change. Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, we've become Oscar-winning actors, totally. Wow, yeah, drop your comments in the bottom. Yeah, I can see. Thank you, Candice, for your comments and stuff. It's always really important for me to know, you know, that I'm being, you know, that what I'm sharing is helping you in understanding. I don't know if anybody's left any messages or anything in my Instagram. No one's left anything in my Instagram, so that's okay. So yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're watching this on the replay and you've got any questions or anything, drop them in the comments. I do go back and, you know, review the comments and stuff like that, so that people can. Oh, right, okay. So this is very insightful. I'm so grateful. You know, if anybody else has got any, you know, share what your takeaways are. Let me know what your takeaways are. If there's anything that you didn't understand, and you want me to go over in more detail, because sometimes I share so much stuff around self-love and whatnot. It can be, you know, there's quite a lot that I tend to share about. So if there's one specific aspect that I've talked about that you want me to just take that in isolation and break it down a bit more, just drop a message in the comments. Or if you don't want to post it in the comments, just DM me, and I can do that. I'm going to be doing the Ask June lives a lot more regular now. So if you've got anything that you wanted me to talk about, anything to do with, you know, Black self-care, Black self-love, racial trauma, anything like that, just let me know, and you know, I can talk about that. I can talk about that stuff. So just let me know. So if anybody else has got any other issues they don't want to share, just remember that if you go to blackselflove.juneallen.net, somebody can post that in the comments. That would be great. The link. Go there to get your free Black Self-Love kit. You can start the journey there. And yeah, again, if you're interested in meeting up once a month in person to be able to talk about this stuff, especially over Black History Month, I want to be able to launch that. I've already got a room already, but I just, you know, I want you to be part of the process. I don't just want to pluck stuff out that I think that you want to learn. You know, I want to be able to, you know, provide you with the opportunity to tell me what you need in that space. It will be sort of based around the whole Black self-love conversation, because I think for me, that's what I'm seeing quite a lot of at the moment. So that's kind of what it's going to be loosely based around. And again, it's going to be about doing the work, you know, not just talking about it, but actually going through the process. And that will be with journal prompts. That will be, you know, we'll be having some conversations, and you'll have the opportunity to be able to share honestly, to share your truth. I want to create a safe space for us as Black people to be able to start to share our truth. And, you know, that's only going to happen when we take action. And I'm about action. I don't want to be talking about this stuff and not giving you the opportunity to do it. This is not about me. This is nothing to do with me. I'm doing this work because this is my gift. I know this is my gift, and it's about sharing my experience, strength, and hope with you, so that you know that there is another way for you to be able to, you know, love yourself in a way that is just joyful, So I hope that's really been helpful around the abandonment stuff. If you've got any other issues around that you want me to talk about, you can email me info@yardofgreatness.com. Okay, so if you know anybody else that's that might be interested in this, then obviously share it with them. Let me just double check. Great. Oh, Candice, you'd be interested in the process. Fabulous. Okay, so sign up for the Black Self-Love Kit, Candice, and you'll get, you'll be on my email list, and then I'm going to be sending that when it comes out. But also, it's going to happen around Black History Month. I think it's the last weekend of Black History Month that I'm going to be doing it. So you'll get a lot more details in there. So till next time, ladies and gents, have a wonderful evening. June Allen, your sister in service, is signing off for the evening. Thank you so much for joining me. I don't take this for granted that you've taken the time to join me this evening. I really, really appreciate it. So till next time, sending you lots of blackalicious love, and I will speak to you next time. Take care. Bye. Can't end the video.